biome is where Ohio is located. So these are these green areas that we've mentioned a couple of times now here in the eastern part of the United States. This funky, weird shape that some people think looks like a dragon in Europe. We've got this tiny chunk over here, relatively tiny chunk in Asia, and then through Australia and New Zealand, and a little bit, check it out, down here at the tip of South America. All right, so what's happening here is we've got 4 clear seasons. That means that these plants and animals must be adapted to high variety moisture, sunlight conditions. And the sunlight conditions as they change through time are going to result in deficits of sunlight that the plants are dependent upon, and inputs of water energy that falls generally as snow. So the big adapters here have to be, how do you accommodate the snow and how do you accommodate the loss of sunlight? And that's taken up by the loss of leaves in the fall, the changing of leaves. These are hardwood forests, which means there's very little cellulose in the tree, and that means that the branches are really rigid and brittle. Really great for making furniture, really tough if you have to support a lot of weight. And if any of you have ever raked leaves in the fall and those leaves have lost a lot of their moisture, each one of those bags can be really heavy. So count up each one of those bags and consider how much weight that single tree held, and then probably multiply it 3 or 4 times over because you've lost moisture in those leaves. So these trees are carrying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds over the course of spring, summer, fall. If in the winter time you add snowfall to that, then you're amplifying that weight. And because these branches, as these diagrams down here indicate, are radial, you add weight to this branch will break, and you are going to create a large wound for this tree that tree's not going to survive from. So losing leaves is important for a couple of different reasons. You lose that you've lost that leaf because there's not enough sunlight to support it. 1. 2, you've lost those leaves because you're keeping them over the course of the winter is going to be a problem for damaging those trees. 3, those leaves are going to be nutrient support for the plants in the springtime. So they fall in the fall. They start to decay in the fall through the winter. That nutrients which is in those leaves, then as snow melts in the spring and spring rainfall, is going to pull that nutrients into the root systems of this ecosystem and be self-fertilizing essentially. So there's big benefits there. The 4th benefit is over the course of the winter and mostly into the spring, because we don't have a canopy, sunlight's able to penetrate to the forest floor and keep the soil a little bit warmer. So there's lots of adaptive mechanisms to the limiting factors of sunlight and moisture characteristics for this environment. Now, why this location to produce these ecosystems is because moisture's coming out of, in this case, I'm going to show you the Atlantic. Coriolis is going to push it through and push it and drive it far into North America. We're going to rotate around. We have a little less moisture because it's been precipitated out here, but we're going to add that moisture to the United Kingdom, to parts of France and Spain. But moreover, because we've got these water bodies through here, as I said previously, that we're able to, with the westerly winds and the Coriolis that's produced by the westerly, or that produces the westerly winds, push that moisture deep across Europe and into Asia. So really important. Same Coriolis effect here is going to drive and push moisture in here. Same Coriolis effect in the northern hemisphere for the eastern nations, China, Japan, Korea. We're going to pull across here and penetrate. We don't see as much penetration here, even though the Pacific Ocean is much larger, because the Tibetan Plateau really rises up, and that moisture-laden body of water just can't penetrate any further east as a result. And then we see similarly here, we're exhausting the moisture out over Borneo and penetrating into Australia and New Zealand. All right, so this is the primary structure of these species. A radial branching that can support a canopy in this regard of low cellulite trees, which means they're not really bendy.